Greetings, citizens! I am Toronto's greatest supervillain, Dr. Holocaust, and you are listening to Channel Awesome's podcast, Nerd to the Third Power.
Hello everybody and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I am your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me as always in this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the cat, who has returned from the land of Amish country apparently. She offended Machine Jesus and has been without a computer for the last week or so.
It's so surreal to be as addicted to the computer as I am and to not be able to use your computer for a week because your hard drive is dead. But I endured.
Yeah, did you have like withdrawal symptoms? You're just like, need to check Facebook, God, the itching!
Well, it was more like, wow, I spend a lot of time on my phone now.
I know that feel. Yep.
No, what's really where, like, if you wear like your phone on like a belt holster and you don't have it, you feel like something vibrated your belt, but nothing's there.
I actually do wear my phone on a holster.
I actually do get that, and now that I've got a Pebble smartwatch, I actually get that with my wrist as well if I'm not wearing my watch. I was like, my wrist just vibrated and I'm not wearing my Pebble, what the fuck?
Either I need to get off the phone or I need to go see some nice men in the white coats. Okay. Of course, you know, Skyblaze is here with us. So Skyblaze, how are you aside from dealing with vibrating wrist syndrome?
Pretty well, apart from that, yeah.
Now, can I ask...
Yeah, go on.
Can I ask a question about that watch? Is it one of those ones that doubles as a phone as well?
No, I can... there's apps you can get on it that allow it to, like, send like, little canned responses to emails and texts. So, you know, stuff like, I'm on my way, I'll be running late, stuff like that.
Okay, I know what's going to happen when you finally do get one that can double in a phone, because I see you not being able to resist the temptation to call somebody to go, control to Michael Knight, come in, Michael.
If there's ever a thing that allows you to actually, like, locate your car using your watch, I will entirely do that. I'll be like, Kit, I need you, buddy, and because I'm a nerd. Nerds! Because
it seems like
it
should be possible because it's just two computers that we need to get to talk to each other. We must make this happen.
I mean, shit.
In theory, it shouldn't be difficult if you could hook up a computer to handle, like, do something like, say, flash the lights or something, because it'd just be a variant on the, you know, the little key fobs that you use to unlock and unlock the car.
Yeah, because you can, if you've got the right kind of remote start, you can actually have an app for it that will start your car if it has the right little addition to your remote start. So yeah, this seems like this should be entirely possible to be able to start your car from your watch.
I mean, shit, we finally got a hoverboard. What's our excuse now?
Hooray!
Anyway, and Brian is kind of sitting over here wondering what the hell's wrong with the rest of us.
Well, I wonder that all the time, but thank you for saying that out loud.
Okay, we got a show for you tonight. We're going to be discussing Hitman Agent 47, which caps off our summer movie season, which, you know, kind of a lot of extremes this summer. You know?
Don't say.
We had Age of Ultron and Jurassic World, both of which were awesome, and then we had Pixels, Fantastic Four, and now Agent 47. So we're going to see on a scale from Pixels to where on the scale from Pixels to Age of Ultron this movie fits. But of course, there is procedure to follow, so we're going to begin, as always, with Ask a Geek, and we've got some good questions here. First question here comes from Carl, and it's addressed to all the Warhammer fans, read me, and
Well...
and, you know, because, you know, Skyblaze, well, you know, Skyblaze will be contributing as our tabletop correspondent, but yeah, it's you know, anyway, the question is, with the what are your thoughts on the discontinuation of Warhammer Fantasy and the transition to Warhammer Age of Sigmar?
Uh-oh. Everyone put on your flame retardant pants.
I want you to do a little thought experiment with me. I want you to imagine that you're walking down a road, and it's a long road, but it's a road that you're familiar with. You know all the landmarks. You can trust that there's going to be, an In-N-Out Burger or a Bob's Big Boy every here and there. That you'll be able to sustain yourself and keep yourself going. It's a familiar road, not a whole lot of rough change or anything. A road that you're comfortable with. You like this road. You like walking this road. It's a road that you enjoy. And, every now and then someone comes along and says, okay, you kind of got to wait a bit because we got to repave the road up ahead of you. Or maybe the road might take you through some new towns, some new locations. You get to see some different stuff. But on the whole, it's still the same road that you're on. But then you get to a point where the pavement stops, and there's a man at the end of that road that says, okay, you've got to wait a bit because this road is over and we're going to put you on a different road. And then he gives you a drink and you drink it and you black out and you wake up and the road is gone and you're on a raft in the middle of fucking nowhere. The water is yellow. The sky is purple. There's a clown on the raft with you and he's juggling in one hand and drinking sangria in the other, and for some reason there's a fucking mushroom-shaped bruise on your cheek and you've got fucking no idea where you are or how you got here. There may be an explanation from how you got to point A to point B, but it's a riddle for the ages that you frankly aren't sure you want the answer to. That's pretty much the transition from Warhammer Fantasy to Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
To say it went down badly is understating it a bit. Among the fan base, it mostly went down like a cup of cold sick, if I'm perfectly honest.
It's like, the thing is...
I apologize to anyone who's eating at the moment, by the way.
And, anyone who's played either Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer 40k will back me up when I say this. It's not a universe that's easy to get into and wrap your head around and understand. So, if you're able to do that, then you've got a pretty good head for figuring things out. I've read the backstory with Age of Sigmar, and the closest that the only thing that I can think of about it is it's like someone tried to mash Ringworld and Warhammer 40k and Sim City and Black and White all into one mess. There's fucking medieval Space Marines now, and I'm just like, really? Is your market share that fucking bad that you've got to bring Space Marines into a medieval fantasy? A lot of the complaints I've heard have said that they've made it too much like 40k, and the people that I know play Warhammer Fantasy have said if I wanted to play something that was like 40k, I'd play 40k. The reason why we like this is because it's different. The part that really kind of frustrates me is I played 40k, but I was really big into the fantasy books. My favorite of the Warhammer Fantasy series is Gotrek and Felix, and so of course to give some background to people who don't understand what's going on here. Basically, they did an event in Warhammer Fantasy called the End Times, where they literally destroyed the world, and that literally happened in story. Like the whole world was destroyed. It was fucking Armageddon, and it actually fucking happened. So I go to the bookstore and I pick up the new Gotrek and Felix books. The final two ones in the series, and I look on the back cover, and I see the End Times logo on the back, and I'm just like, well, I know how this story ends. No point in my reading these anymore. So, it's like, narratively, it's kind of like, why even bother, reading these books or participating in this world, because we all know that it's all going to go to shit anyway. So, I kind of feel like the way the whole thing ended was kind of just a big fuck you to all the fantasy players, because now it's like all the good that you've done in your campaigns, all the role plays that you've done, that you've saved the earth and all that, it doesn't mean anything because we're just gonna throw the whole thing in a negative space wedgie anyway. So, anything to add to that, Skyblaze?
Just that it just seems to have been a massive misstep in pretty much... some people have said the aspects of it are good. They've cut down on some of the clunkier aspects in terms of mechanics. They've cut down on the clunkier aspects of some of the combat and made it a lot more free-flowing, which is good. But the lore has been entirely taken around the back and shot. Which, considering that this is something that has been going on for it's at least 10 years. I think it's more, isn't it?
Warhammer Fantasy has been around for close to 30.
No, since the last big
since the last big edition. I think about 6 or 7 years at least since version 8.
So, a lot of people who have invested an awful lot of time and energy into that lore are kind of left bereft. And Games Workshop have yet to say anything about how it's going to affect the roleplay, the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game. So, that's been left kind of up a creek. So, who knows what's going to happen there. Because, frankly, a role-playing system in the universe as it stands in Age of Sigmar would be really dull.
So yeah, hope that answers your question. Next question is for Brian, and it bizarrely comes from another Brian. And he asks, what is your favorite era of comic books from Golden Age to Modern Age?
Oh, dear. I like a lot of stuff from all the ages. I don't really have a particular age. Truth be told, I haven't read a lot of the Golden Age stuff. I've only read like pieces and parts of it. I read a lot of Silver Age. Everyone calls the 90s the Dark Age, and I read stuff during the 90s. Modern Ages has its ups and downs, so I just sort of pick and choose where I like it. I haven't had like a completely, totally favorite era of any comics, really. That's a terrible answer for a good question. I apologize for that.
Okay, all right. And let's see, one for Kat, and this one is from Donovan, and he asks, "What is a manga that has not been adapted to an anime that you would like to see adapted?"
Ooh, this is a very good question. There are probably a few, but the one that I can think of the most is an older like shoujo fantasy series called Dragon Knights. Now there's something else called Dragon Knight that's like a hentai, and that's not what I'm talking about. It's by, what was her name? Okami Mineko, I think was the artist's name. It was probably way too highly stylized, like way too complex of a style to ever animate, which is why I think it never really got animated, and I don't think it was being published by a huge, I don't know, it was a very long-running manga, and it didn't finish, I think, until a few years ago. So I think it just never got picked up and sort of fell by the wayside in terms of popularity, but it was always really, really interesting, and it had a lot of drama that I really enjoyed, but it just never got, animated, and that was always such a shame, because that would have been a really cool series to watch. Mostly Dragon Knight, maybe Vampire Knight was kind of interesting. Don't know why that one never got picked up either. Vampires, man, who doesn't love vampires?
That's all the Ask Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at billysmith@channelawesome.com. And with that, we're going to jump right into the headlines, starting this week with Skyblaze. So Skyblaze, take it away.
Hello all. Tabletop gaming news time again. No time to chat, so off we go. First news of the week comes from Seattle, where a court has ordered Altius Management, who ran the Asylum Playing Cards Kickstarter, to pay over $54,000 in penalties and costs. This is after a lawsuit was brought on behalf of backers who did not receive the promised products after the company stopped communicating with pretty much anyone back in 2013. The judgment was by default since the defendants didn't appear in court, but it could prove to be an interesting precedent for other rogue Kickstarter projects. Only time will tell. In the first of our news from Gen Con, it seems that this year's event was brushing up against the upper space limit for the Indianapolis Convention Center. There were 412 exhibitors this year, a new record for the con, and organisers are already having to look at price increases and other policies to put in place to deal with the huge number of exhibitors. On a related note, the event also boasted a new record in attendee numbers, reaching a whopping 61,423 unique individuals. Wow. In more worrying news, it seems that DriveThru RPG and its related site RPG Now have been hacked. The company is advising that anyone who's made a purchase from the site between the July the 6th and August the 6th, 2015 may have had their credit card information compromised. They also suggest that anyone who's ever made a purchase from the site should check their credit card receipts very carefully for the next few weeks, just in case. The hack was apparently a result of the man-in-the-middle attack, and the web hosts are working with the company to beef up their online security. More details are available on the support page for DriveThru RPG. Also from Gen Con, Onyx Path Publishing have announced they are working on a Vampire the Masquerade 4th edition game. Onyx Path previously released the popular Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition. Apparently this new edition will feature overhaul of the rules, though keep the concept of the core Vampire the Masquerade concepts. For those who are turned off by White Wolf's current Vampire the Requiem game, it might be worth looking into. Pinnacle Entertainment have announced that they will be producing a new version of the Deadlands rules, as well as several new Savage Worlds games based on pulp comic books, namely Flash Gordon, Fear Agent and The Goon. So good news for Savage World and Deadlands fans. Getting back to lawsuits for just a second, seems that the lawsuit between Sweet Pea Entertainment and Wizards of the Coast owners Hasbro that was interfering with production of the new D&D movie has finally been settled. It's been confirmed that the movie will be produced by Warner Brothers, will be set in the Forgotten Realms, and the script will be written by David Leslie Johnson. And that after the film is made, all rights for future D&D productions will revert to Wizards of the Coast. Also, for any aspiring RPG designers out there, Paizo Publishing, producers of the acclaimed Pathfinder game, are running the RPG Superstar contest. The winner will be given the opportunity to design their own Pathfinder module. Further details are available on the Paizo website. Well, that's it from me for now. Over to you, Kat.
Thanks, Skyblaze. G-Kids has announced that they'll be releasing Takahata Isao and Studio Ghibli's Only Yesterday film. The release will be dubbed, starring Daisy Ridley, Dev Patel, Ashley Eckstein, and Alison Fernandez. The film, originally released in Japan in 1991, will hit North American theaters next year, just in time for its 25th anniversary. G-Kids also has the non-theatrical home video and television rights to the film, so yeah, there's probably going to be a Blu-ray and DVD release next year as well. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Only Yesterday is the only Studio Ghibli feature film that's never been released in the US. Most Ghibli films have had a Blu-ray release in the past 2 years, so this is actually great for anyone who's looking to round out their Ghibli collection. Marduk Scramble novelist and Ghost in the Shell Arise anime writer Ubukata Toll was arrested Monday on charges of domestic abuse against his wife. She reported to the police on Saturday that he had hit her on the mouth. The award-winning writer admits the pair quarreled, but denies the charges. Now, this really isn't my area, but I kind of want to talk about it anyway. If you've been on any form of social media in the past few days, you've probably already heard this story, but for those who haven't, the Boston Police Department arrested 2 men who allegedly threatened the Pokémon World Championships at the Heinz Convention Center in Boston last week. The Pokémon Company was made aware of the threats, which took place on a Facebook group. They then alerted convention security, who informed the police. The threats were made by 27-year-old James Stumbo and 18-year-old Kevin Norton, both of Iowa, who were invited to the championships. Stumbo allegedly posted a picture of firearms sitting on the trunk of a car and indicated that they would be taking the firearms to the championships. When someone wished them good luck, Norton replied, "With killing the competition?" Stumbo made references in Facebook chats to Columbine and the Boston Massacre, and both are alleged to have made specific threats against people who would be there. They were barred from entering the hotel, and Boston police searched their car, finding the guns. They were arrested on charges of unlawful possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition, and more. Now, while this whole situation is pretty messed up, the silver lining is that what could have been a terrible tragedy was prevented. And it was prevented by your everyday netizen. The Facebook group moderators saw the threats, and instead of writing them off as a joke or figuring that someone else would deal with it, they took action. We live in a time and a place where mass shootings make the headlines with an alarming frequency. Not to veer too much into one of those areas that we don't talk about on this show, but people die every day without any warning. So I think if you see something that raises a red flag like that, we owe it to ourselves and to one another to alert the proper authorities. Don't ignore threats. Exercise caution. If you see something, say something. This public service announcement is brought to you by Nerd to the Third Power. We don't want to die, and we don't want you to die either.
I'm very worried about Henry, my soulmate of a quadruped. He's 13, and things are happening. You know how that is. And we're all here. And that's happening too. Thank goodness. It's hard to explain heavy things to a dog, but one day you'll sleep like a log. It's hard to explain heavy things to a pup. One day you'll sleep and you won't wake up. And it kills me in advance, my dear. It just kills me in advance. Within you, without you, this song is about you. Within you, without you, this song is about you. It's all about you. I'm not about to forget you. I'm not about to. I'm not about to forget you. I'm not about to. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. This is the way that I live now. Without you, just barely. I wish I could call you. I wish I could call you up. I wish I could call you. Wish I could call you up. I'm not about to forget you. I'm not about to. I'm not about to forget. About to forget you. I'm not about to. Never. I'm not about to. I'm not about to. It's hard, hard to explain, and I'm not about to. It's hard to explain heavy things to a dog. Bob Dylan never says thank you. Has anyone noticed? So on behalf of Bob, I'd like to thank you all so much.
And we are back. Today we are going to be talking about this really awesome film that I didn't go see called Hitman, but other people went to go see it, so I'm going to kind of ask them about it and have no idea what's going on. So this is a video game based movie. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, it is.
Based off of Hitman.
Yeah, it's based.
Video game.
Yeah, it's based on the Hitman series from Square Enix and IO Interactive. where you basically, like the title says, you are a hitman, and you go out and you do awful things to awful people. So,
Sounds great.
Do you hit, man?
what is if John's not here, you have to fill in for him? Is that how this goes?
Seeing as how I don't know anything about Hitman, yes.
Okay, well, basically, the Hitman series centers around Agent 47, who has been genetically engineered to be as near perfect a killer as he can be. And he works for an agency called the International Contract Agency, and he basically takes these jobs from, it's a semi-legal organization. He takes jobs for the wealthy and the criminal to go out and whack other wealthy and criminal people. And this is actually the second time they have made a Hitman film. The first one was in 2007 and starred, I think his name's Timothy Oliphant, who I swear his family are just like the biggest Tolkien fans ever for having a family name like Oliphant. But
No
that's neither
shit.
here nor there. And it was a total shitburger. So, to its credit, this film got closer to the spirit of the games than the previous film did, but it still misstepped in some very important ways, which we'll get to in a moment.
Okay, so tell us about the plot.
Well, plot-wise, this film takes its cues from the most recent game in the series, Hitman Absolution, in that we have Agent 47 protecting a young woman who is another product of the same program that produced him. This young woman is trying in the film is trying to find her father, although she doesn't know at the beginning of the film that he is her father. She just has this vague notion that she needs to find him because, I don't know, she can't have a happy Christmas until she does, apparently. And she winds up crossing paths with two separate organizations who are also trying to locate her father. The first is this group called the Syndicate, who are trying to find her father because he's the doctor who created the agents like 47 and actually wound up doing some genetic manipulation on her as well. And the International Contract Agency, who are trying to kill him and have sent 47 after him, although they really don't mention who 47 works for in this film, which I found kind of odd. The first major problem with this film is that the premise of a Hitman film is inherently flawed. Of making the premise of turning 47 into a film character is inherently flawed because the thing is, in the games, he has no real character to speak of. He's sort of what I call a puppet character. He's just there for the player to have somebody that they can pull the little levers in his head and make him go drown a man in a toilet. He doesn't have a real character arc. He doesn't have any real growth throughout the series. He's just there to, be the player's avatar. So to try and make him and give him a character arc in a film is a very difficult thing to do because it's almost like trying to make, a Thanksgiving feast out of like a package of Oscar Mayer bologna. You're gonna have to stretch things a little thin here.
Well, the film also leaves a lot of things out. You get, like, the voiceover at the very beginning where it's trying to explain things like who these people are, what these people represent, or what they do, and kind of things like that, trying to set up the whole film. And then you sort of get introduced to a bunch of characters, but you don't get explained who they are, to the point where I actually think I asked the question going, is this supposed to be a sequel?
Yeah,
like,
Brian
am I supposed to know who these people are before I go into this film?
Yeah, Brian asked whether or not this movie was a sequel, and the answer that I had to give was, no, it's not a sequel, but it sets everything up so shittily that you kind of assume that it is, because a lot of it's sort of the same problem that we had in can't remember what movie it was, but it has sort of a take our word for it syndrome, where it just drops the stuff on you and goes, just trust us, this shit is happening. And this is another problem that I have with this film, because it goes in the whole, we have to deal with 47's dark backstory. The thing is, in the games don't give a shit about 47's backstory. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of mentions here and there, and the ending of the final boss of the first game, you have to kill the doctor who created Agent 47 and fight off a couple of clones, but outside of that, no one gives a shit. It's,
Truth be told, the backstory was all girls, Katya's. Like, the female, Agent 47 shows up in her backstory as, like, a guest star. Yeah. Like, we don't really go into his backstory, but it goes then, like, way more into hers.
Yeah, and I think that was the reason why they did that is because if you tried to go into 47's backstory and how it affected him, you'd find he just doesn't give a fuck. You know, he is literally just, you know, he's a killer. He's a hired killer. That's what he does. That is his raison d'etre. That's his reason for being. You can't really mine a character like that. So really putting Katya in is really the only way that you can have anything approaching a character arc over the course of this film. The problem is with doing that, though, is, you know, it ceases to be, it's one of the things that makes the film really not a Hitman film in my eyes. But, you know, there are other issues with that. So anyway, so 47 hooks up with Katya, and has to protect her from the Syndicate's agent, a guy named John Smith, played by Zachary Quinto in this movie, who I think is supposed to be an ex-B of Agent Smith from the games. But the thing is, in the games, Smith was just this incompetent FBI, CIA agent that 47 just kind of, you know, rescued on occasion and just kind of tolerated and didn't really care for. Whereas in this film, they turned him into the fucking Terminator. And here we run into one of the things that kind of broke the Hitman sense for me from this film is that in the games, you know, 47 is an especially skilled assassin, and you know he's the best in the business, and he has, you know, heightened intelligence, but he's not fucking superhuman, and nobody else is. So there's nothing, you know, introducing to this film subdermal body armor, or 47 being able to pull off a shot with a sniper rifle from 3 miles away between, you know, a pair of skyscrapers, which I swear is a shot-for-shot ripoff of a scene from a manga called Golgo 13, which is also about an assassin, coincidentally enough. You know, just kind of adds this sort of, you know, fantastic element to it that I feel like is very out of place for a series as grounded as the Hitman series is, as odd as that sounds. So really, the only portions of the film that really felt close to how the games flow were two sequences. The first is when they're in the airplane factory, and 47 is picking all the soldiers off one by one, and you know he's not just using like his trademark piano wire or his pistols. He's also using the environment to kill them. You know, the running airplane engine, or my personal favorite, the thing hanging from the ceiling that crushed the two soldiers, like sort of the jaws of death. I thought that was really cool. And then there's also the sequence in the airport where he kind of lifts a pilot disguise to sneak, you know, out of the airport and avoid the cameras, which, you know, that's a big gameplay element of the games too, is, you know, using stealth. And that's sort of the big problem that I have with this movie as a Hitman film is, you know, 47 prides himself on his professionalism and the fact that he's able to get the job done without a whole bunch of collateral damage, without, you know, leaving any evidence. I mean, for God's sakes, the subtitle of the second game is Silent Assassin, when in this film, 47 really is neither. You know, it really felt more like they were going for something more like The Transporter, you know, one of those more over-the-top, you know, Jason Statham-type action films.
Well, those are always sort of popular, and, I mean, like, you had some good action sequences in the film in itself, but the story really doesn't hold up well. Like, there was a lot of definitely plot holes, and like, I was very confused, but action-wise, it was alright. But you get, I guess, and this is what it goes back to, and this is probably going to derail the entire conversation, but it's a video game movie. And this is just a long list of sort of examples of video game movies not transferring well over into another medium. Because once you sort of transfer over an interactive experience into what you've been talking about, an avatar for you, the player, into something else where the player is now no longer in control, you have to sort of follow a story with them, you sort of lose something about it. You don't get all the different things that a player would when they're just playing a game. And that's just been the biggest flaw a lot of times between a lot of these video game adaptations, or that they're being, you know, over the top ridiculous, or just plain bad. Like, there's effort put to this film, which I can say. Like, there's definitely someone sat down and said, I want to make at least a mildly entertaining film. I'm going to at least try. And there was some effort put into place with a lot of that. But it sort of falls on in when the writing doesn't match up, and you're sort of stuck going, well, it's still just, quote, video game movie. You know, they use video game logic in something that shouldn't be used. Especially when, like, CGI guys are being shot and falling on the ground, and Zachary Quinto is being filled with bullets, which for some reason is kind of hilarious to me. He's like, I've been shot 4 times. I'm still alive. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens next. I've been shot 7 times. Still alive. That's kind of funny.
I will say,
I got thrown out of a car. I'm like, you're Wile E. Coyote.
I will say, as disjointed as the film story was, I did like Katya's arc throughout the film, because I was kind of afraid that they were going to do this whole, you came from the same program as this emotionless killing machine, and so you're going to wind up becoming just like him. But and throughout the whole film, 47 is kind of training her to survive in the situations that to him is just another day at the office. And she's kind of learning these skills, and kind of growing into them, but she's not letting it compromise, her morals or her, what's the word I'm looking for? Her viewpoint on life. She retains a very, the big contrast between Katya and 47 is 47 is just like, I'm a killer. It's what I am. Fucking deal with it. And Katya is like, okay, yeah, we both came out of this program that made us killers, but we are defined by what we choose to do. And I like that she got to hold on to that throughout the course of the film, instead of doing this, the bald guy with the gun was right throughout the whole film anyway. Life is meaningless. I may as well just go off and become a contract killer.
Well, she kind of does towards the end.
I did like Katya's arc, and I like that they managed to keep her interesting throughout the film, as opposed to her just being like 47's backpack or something.
Well, they kept her interesting, but she was also like a walking Deus Ex Machina. Like, there's that whole scene where she's trying to find her father, and they're just spouting out like random information, and somehow just because she's super genetic, whatever you want to call it, she's like, oh, obviously he's in Singapore. And I was going, how the fuck did you get to that conclusion? Other than obviously going, trust us, she's really smart about this stuff. It's like, well, except for the fact that if she's so smart, she would have all this information down. She wouldn't have traveled the whole world off the grid and all this other stuff. You have to give a lot. You have to sort of suspend a lot of disbelief in this film, with at least the story-wise, which is why I was annoyed with the story, but at least the action pieces kind of kept me entertained. Yeah, and that's because I also like action films.
Yeah, when this movie, the action sequences kick in, I mean, it got my blood pumping, got me excited. I love seeing them. It just, like I said, it just, it wasn't, the style of the action wasn't what was, like I said, at its core, this movie it's a passable action film. It's not, it's nothing special, but it's nothing terrible either. It's just not a Hitman. 47 and all the connections to the games, and still had a really passable film. So I get kind of the impression that this was a completely unrelated film that was 3/4 of the way finished, and someone said, wait a minute, we have the rights to this Hitman series, why don't we make it a Hitman movie? And then just kind of last minute, everything else, all the Hitman ties were just kind of shoehorned in. Perfect example of this, the character of Diana, 47's handler. In the games, there's a whole professional relationship between these two. They're pretty much the only two people that trust each, They are each the only person that the other one really trusts. And in fact, the whole, I mentioned this movie takes its cues from Hitman Absolution. The whole plot of that game is kicked off with 47 honoring Diana's dying wish. And here in this movie, Diana's just kind of there. She just appears all of in 2 scenes, and, it's hinted that she has some greater role in the plot that nothing ever really comes out of it. So I really kind of feel like that this was an unrelated film that just wound up getting morphed into a Hitman film at the last minute, if that makes any real sense.
It does.
You think they were trying to bank on the popularity of other movies like The Transporter, the one that the plot sounds exactly alike?
Yeah, I think
the way you say that makes you sound suspicious.
And it's kind of funny that we keep mentioning The Transporter, because before I don't know if they did this at Bryan's showing, but at my showing, the last trailer they showed before this movie was for the new Transporter film. So yeah, I think that they were banking on that. So like I said,
I saw that. But I also, because I went to the Draft House, I saw a trailer from a Hong Kong film called Future Cops, which looks fucking amazing. apparently it was made back in like 1993, and all of the characters are the characters from Street Fighter who travel back in time to like try to brainwash like the super boss and becoming more powerful. And there was times when I was watching Hitman that I would turn up to the ceiling going, I wonder what Future Cops is doing right now. Because it looks terrible, but it looks that terrible fantastic. You're like, I want to see. Like, apparently Goku shows up. I was like, I need to see this film. Why am I not watching this film?
Okay, so Agent 47, you've kind of talked about 3 characters. So is there, other than the agent and Katya and Zachary Quinto getting shot a lot, were there any other standout characters?
Not really.
Those were it.
That's pretty much
Absolutely
it.
not.
I will say that Jeremy Friend did a much better job of getting. He got much closer to the personality of 47 from the games than Mr. Oliphant did in the 2007 film. But they were still, again, and this is where I sort of see hints if there was an unrelated film that this just kind of got morphed at the last minute. There's a scene where Katya is talking with 47. She's just like, do you feel love? Do you feel any emotion? He's like, nope, not at all. And she's like, I find that very sad. And I'm just like, please do not turn this into a fucking romance. So, and I tell you, there was something that I read after I saw this film that really kind of confused the hell out of me. And that's that 47 from the games is actually modeled both in face and body on his voice actor, David Bateson, and who does a phenomenal job as the character in the game. So I'm thinking, if you're going to do a 47 film, I feel like you need to just get David Bateson to play the role, because the character is him anyway. So, but that goes into Hollywood politics and how they completely disregard voice actors that, I'm sure if I go into, Kat will go into a screaming rant about. So, moving on.
It's true.
So, but that was the thing, is like, there was, there's not a whole lot to this movie. You kind of have the action sequences, you have the plot that strings along, and then that's about it. There was one bit of a twist that I liked as for the film itself, even though it was kind of, again, against the spirit of 47's character, and that's where we find out at the end of the film that he's pretty much played Katya for a chump to assassinate both the head of the syndicate and her father, and that he's sort of, chess mastered the whole thing together, which was a neat twist. But again, the whole thing about 47 is he's able to do all this shit on his own. He doesn't, this kind of thing on his own. He doesn't need to play anyone else for a chump, because he'll just sneak in, strangle with a piano wire, and be out before you realize what's happened. So again, it's.
Well, yeah, but they sort of it's that because they set up this thing, the Syndicate, which sounds like a very ominous company that they don't explain what they fucking do.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, well, I have to kill. The chairman, 14 agents went after him, but they've all died, and it's like really hard to kill an agent. Take our word for it. I'm like, well, you're pretty much doing an all right job now so far. I mean, most of Singapore is destroyed, but hey, And it's just sort of that, like, well, obviously he's like, well, I can't get in there. I can't do my normal shtick. So I'm going to do this other thing and weirdly keep my promise that I'm not going to kill your father, because the father heroically kills himself to kill the chairman and save his daughter. So, like, it's this weird kind of like, yeah, I kept my promise. I didn't kill him, but he killed himself, because all, loving parents will sacrifice themselves to save their children. I was like, did you just try to squeeze in a moral?
Yeah. See,
in a movie about a guy who kills
the thing, 47 is a lot like the Punisher, in that the only way to make him anything approaching a heroic character is you have to put him up against people who are 1,000 times worse than he is, and that's very difficult to do in film, because you run the risk of, like, all these people are fucking assholes. Why should I care about any of them? Now, so again, it's like, it's just. That's just the whole it's one of those. It goes back to Hitman's not really a video game that translates well to film. Now when I posted my general thoughts on Facebook, a guy named Jeffrey posted a comment for what he thought a great Hitman film would be, and I want to read this out because I would watch the shit out of this, and I think it would be a really great film. What he wrote was, what we need from a Hitman movie is a 20-minute intro where we follow one of 47's targets, catching glimpses of the assassin in the crowd, with his friends being picked off one by one until an air quotes accident happens, and we find out the character we've been following for the whole movie thus far is some kind of monster deserving assassination, like some extra sadistic Final Destination or something. Then we jump back and forth between a detective tracking 47 and the agent himself as they play an increasingly tense game of cat and mouse across multiple locations. That would actually be far closer to the spirit of the games than this film was, because that's pretty much the plot of one of the games right there, and I feel like that would have been a much more fulfilling Hitman movie than what we got. Although, again, to be fair, this movie not terrible on its own merits. It's just not, what was promised.
But again, it goes back to what I was saying about video game movies. Like, the reason Agent 47 is the star is because that is the character you play as. That is the avatar. So he has to be, well, he doesn't have to be, but in everyone's mind, he has to be the guy that's in the spotlight, the one that you follow and things like that. And I know you're going back saying, well, Hitman this, Hitman that. That's not how he is. That's not how it's played. Whatever. But that's how we see it. It's sort of like making, I hope I'm not jinxing everything, it's sort of like making a live action, Legend of Zelda movie where Link is like the minor character because he doesn't normally speak, and so we have to follow something else, and people would be sort of annoyed with that. And I feel like some people might be annoyed, maybe not everybody. Again, I don't know how popular the Hitman franchise really is because I don't play that many different types of video games, so I don't know if that would maybe it would make for good cinema if it wasn't called Hitman, because a lot of people may get confused. And it just kind of goes back and forth that video game adaptations don't really work well in the sort of how Hollywood wants it to work, or how a screenwriter wants it to work as an action film. And I keep going back to, it makes me sound like I'm anti-video game movie. I'm not, but you kind of look at what's come before, and what we're looking at now is that no one's really learned the lesson.
And I want to disagree. We'll sort of agree and disagree in a weird way, because something you said, Hollywood hasn't learned the lesson. I feel like that if they tried if they took a different tack, if they played 47 like they played, say, Predator, where 47 would have been an antagonist, you go back and you watch the original Predator, the movie's not about the Predator. He drives the plot, yes, but it's about the other characters reacting to and dealing with him. I feel like that if they played 47 that way, where he was the predator and our protagonists were the prey, or at least some of them were, that it would have been a much more effective movie overall, at least as far as using the character. And I feel like, in this case, Hollywood was like, we don't want to do that. We kind of just want to make the same action movie that we've been making for the last 15 years.
I mean, a little, but it's that sort of back and forth. And I think Hollywood's a little anti-video game. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion, but I get this feeling that they're a bit anti-video game. Well, I feel like that was anti-everything.
God himself is looking at that movie and going,
way, doesn't it?
Fuck?
And maybe it takes someone to be a good fan of video games, or a screenwriter or a producer, to sit down, sort of analyze what makes a game the game, and what makes it, kind of tick for it to then become a different narrative. But at the same time, it's really hard, because when you like I said, when you lose that interconnectivity, that you are in control, it doesn't feel as right as it should, because I think a lot of people will be sitting in the theater going, well, I would have done it like this, or if I was or if I was the character, or if I was playing the game, and you're a little bit more harsh than I think you actually would be with it. But that's hard, because everyone plays the game a little bit different, or everyone plays games a little bit different. This has just become like video game movie discussion.
That's okay. So let me ask, if this weren't a Hitman film, would it be any good?
Yeah, like I said before, if you strip away the ties to the video game, it's a passable action film. It's nothing special, but it's nothing horrible either. But it's kind of like, we have sort of the opposite problem with this film that we had with Fantastic Four. With Fantastic Four, we had a rich source material that they didn't really know how to make it what it could be, whereas with this film, we had a decent action film that they tried to make it into something that it wasn't.
Yeah,
and
it's an all-rightish action film. Like, if it was called anything else, you would tell people going, did you see
Transporter 7?
Yeah, Transporter 7, Gunshot 2, whatever you want to call it. And you'd be like, I saw it as I.
If you removed 47 from and all the Hitman ties and just had it be like Katya's story, just had her be the only central antagonist, it still would have been a very passable film. So, but like I said, they tried to make it a Hitman film, and it wound up trying to be something it wasn't.
So how about them effects? You mentioned something about CG people that were getting shot or something, so now I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, like one of the opening scenes, and this is just I know for a fact, just the way Hollywood is set up now, and then they kind of try to save time by hiring actors, or stunt guys and things like that. And so there are some very obvious CG people getting killed where, like, you see them fall at a weird angle, and they'll hit their head or something like that on a railing as they fall, and you kind of go, that's CG, because it's just easier that way. Later, that's opening stuff. Later in the film, the effects got better, especially the car chase scene until the very end, because there was a car chase scene inside of a parking garage, going back to the whole transporter analogy. And it's really cool because they're dodging these motorcycles, they're going through, they're not hitting the other cars. It's really cool until the end where they tried to seal off the building, but they just make it out in time. But the bad guys don't make it out, so they hit the barrier, and the car becomes a cartoon. Like, you could just look at it going, that's not there. And then the way it sort of flips and then lands, you're like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, it literally just does one end-over-end flip in the air and then just lands on its wheels and then just stops. And I'm just like, physics doesn't work that way.
And Zachary Quinto's like, fascinating. Oh, sorry, I'm spoken again.
Wrong movie.
So, like, it goes from very obvious, this is not there, to, all right, this is actually not so bad. Like, when they're doing a lot of the stuff, like close combat work, and they're doing sort of the stealth action stuff, and then in the end, when Katya's finally sort of like, all right, I gotta get out of here, I become super hit girl, and she's going around taking guys out. I was like, these are some really well produced stuff. The fight between Agent 47 and Smith, the close combat, like stunt work, really well put together. Weird cheesy ending where he gets electrocuted, but other than that, nothing too bad. But don't worry, there's sequel bait, because he's still awake, because he's fucking Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
But so it goes back and forth. It's obvious, but not offensively. Like, I guess obvious. It's like, we wanted to sort of look cool. We didn't have the money to hire ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, so we got these guys.
The only other thing that really irritated me about the action sequences was the gun physics. A sniper rifle that size can't make that shot. And for some reason, all the 45 pistols that 47 uses in this film, they all sound like they have a silencer fitted. Because I fired a real 1911 Colt in real life, and they are not that soft.
Oh, I know. I figured it out. I know where the money for the special effects went, and unfortunately, it's in the trailer. Because in the trailer, he's in the U.S. Embassy or whatever, and he gets the sniper rifle to like fire, and he cuts off his chains, and he goes after the guys. Like, that was really well put together. And I think that's where all the money went. And they're like, oh, crap, we have to have others. Now, there are times where they do some close combat fighting where it's too close for my comfort. So, like, you kind of see guys getting hit but not really getting hit. And I'm just like, And, the whole, like, me watching old Kung Fu and, like, Shaolin, stuff like that. That snob of me kind of going, if you just widen the angle, look right. Jeez. Like, no, that's like not a snob. I'm actually whining. Weird.
Yeah, the cinematography left something to be desired.
Was the music at least redeemable?
The music kind of, there were a couple of decent tracks. The song that played over the credits was all right, but I honestly didn't notice the music throughout the film.
No. The only thing I know about the music is the weird, like, electro remix of Voodoo Child they use in the trailer that was never used in the film. I was just confused. It didn't make me excited for the film. It just confused me, because when I first heard it, I remember just looking around going, is that Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child? Well, that's not Jimi Hendrix.
I was disappointed that Ave Maria was not played at any point, because that's pretty much 47's theme song. You know, he'll complete a hit, and as he's walking away, the song will play as the victim lies bleeding on the floor. You know, I was disappointed that wasn't in there. So, but no, music was just kind of non-existent in this film.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your final overall impressions of the film?
Well, I'm probably sounding like a broken record at this point, but you know, like I said, this was a passable action film. You know, but it didn't. It felt like it was trying to be something it wasn't. You know, this movie, it was Terminator. It was Jason Bourne. It was Bourne Identity. It was every Jason Statham action movie ever made, but it wasn't Hitman, and that's what it was. That's what it needed to be, and that's what it wasn't.
It's not the worst action film I've ever seen. It's also not the worst film I've ever seen. It had its all right moments action wise, but overall, just sort of a completely unoffensive action film that you could really watch and be like, all right, that was nice, but nothing really to write home about. Yeah.
Okay, now I don't know the ratings breakdown, so you should just say them.
Okay, so this is going in the show, by the way. So since Kat can't remember our rating scale, this is part of the show.
I can't. I've never had to recite it before from memory.
This is where we give our final ratings on the film, as always, from best to worst. There's see it now, wait for the matinee, wait for DVD, wait for cable, don't even bother, and Brian's rating, fuck this movie. So I'm going to start off by saying, wait for cable, wait for Netflix or Hulu to have it, or wait to catch it on HBO. It's time killer. It's not a horrible film, but it's also nothing special. And so if you're gonna see it, catch it on HBO when you've got some time to kill.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It's a wait. Only if you're really curious. It happens to be on TV in front of the cable or whatever. Even if it's just basic cable like on FX, I guarantee you FX will play this film. And you're like, oh yeah, that's that Hitman film. Okay, I'll see what all the hoopla of it is about. And that's basically it. It's hoopla. I'm kind of bored. It's a Saturday afternoon. I can't find people to hang out with. I'll kill myself. I'll kill an hour and a half real quick.
Kill myself.
You having some issues there, Brian?
You have no room to speak.
The sad part is I really don't. I'm in therapy.
So that's all the time that we have for any of this nonsense. Yeah. I don't know how.
So thank you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hitman. If you absolutely had to have an awesome Hitman story, go play Hitman Blood Meanie. Yeah, let's try that again.
Yeah, Brian can't talk today.
If you absolutely want to see an awesome Hitman story, play Hitman Blood Money or Hitman Absolution. Otherwise, like I said, wait for this movie to come out on TV. So, but that's all the time that we have for Nerd to the Third Power this week. We will see you next week. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
And I'm Agent Whatever.
Thank you as always for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.